Hello, I'm Jeremy Wright, the Associate Pastor of the Westside Missionary Baptist Church, and I'm here again with another video. Now, I was doing a bunch of political videos because there was an election coming up, and now we're in the longest election ever. I don't know, it'll go on forever maybe. On that point, if you're watching this and you live in Georgia, there are 2 Senate races that are going to a runoff in Georgia. I'm pretty sure they're going to a runoff. Because in Georgia, I think you have to get a 50%. If you don't get 50%, there's a runoff with the top 2 guys. So those are going to go on 2 Senate races. There's, what is her name? Leffer. It's Kelly Leffer. I think that's how you say it. It looks like Leofer, but it's got 2 F's in the middle of it. It's Leo, 2 F's and an ER. And then there's Perdue. I don't remember his first name, Daniel or David, one of those 2. And these are the Republicans that are running. And you need to go vote for these guys because there's going to be a runoff. Now, you may have, if you're listening to me, you probably did, because I don't have much reach, and maybe nobody in Georgia. So, but if you voted in the first election for one of these senators, well, there's a runoff happening, and you need to vote in the runoff election. Otherwise, all that you did, because the worst part about it is they both won. They had the most votes. But you have to get over 50% because it's a statewide election for a senator. And senators are pretty powerful people. There's only 100 of them in the whole United States. 300 million people in the United States, and there's only 100 senators. So these are important guys. Now, tonight, we're going to talk again about culture. Culture is very important. And our culture in America is becoming a culture of death, and not a culture of life. And our thoughts on life are no longer good or valid. There is a problem in our culture. We are obsessed with death. I was playing a video game, and there's a guy that, in the video game, one of the video game characters, and he just randomly says, you know what's wrong with the country they're in? Everyone's obsessed with death. And you know what's wrong with the country you're in? People are obsessed with not just death, but also material things. And they're obsessed with these material things, and nobody cares about the important things. The world has gone so far as to snuff out the lives of babies in the womb. And I talk about this a lot because I don't like it. I don't like abortion, and I wish it would stop. And I don't have a means to stop it exactly. So my only hope is I'm going to say it into this camera, and hopefully somebody watches it and says, you know what? He's making a good point. I'm not going to kill my baby. So that's one of my goals. Every baby we save, no matter, as long as we do it without violence, without evil, as long as we're doing good still and not doing evil things, every baby we save is a wonderful thing. And there's a lot people would do to save a baby. Now, when I say babies, I mean babies in the womb and not fetuses, although fetus means offspring, so, they use that word, though, on purpose. They use the word fetus because you don't know what fetus means. I didn't know what fetus meant till a year ago because I never cared to look it up. And fetus is just offspring. Now, when you go to school, we misuse language so much in the world. We made rules in our house that we had to use words we knew the meaning of. Because if you just use a bunch of words you don't know the meaning of, you're saying things, but you don't know what you're saying. And that can be a problem. Like the other day, I realized the word demented. Now, if you hear demented, you think somebody that's crazy and wants to kill a bunch of people. But it could just mean they have dementia. Because the word dementia comes from the word demented, right? So it's kind of interesting how words work. Now, the problem in America, this abortion problem, I don't believe that a majority of people are actually pro-abortion. Now, I say pro-abortion and not pro-choice because pro-choice is another one of these words that they use, a euphemism, to fool you into thinking something else. So you could even say pro-baby killing, and that would also be accurate, although more accurate than pro-choice. Everybody's pro-choice, right? Who's not pro-choice? That's why they use that word. They get it. They've worked it out. If we say pro-choice, people have to argue with pro-choice. It's like they did with Black Lives Matter, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The Black Lives Matter. You argue with Black Lives Matter, you sound like a jerk, right? But we're not arguing with the concept that Black Lives Matter. We're arguing with the organization of Black Lives Matter. Because they're a Marxist and an evil organization that causes riots all over the country. Why wouldn't we argue against somebody that does that? You'd argue against anybody else that did that. Now, my point tonight is that all lives matter. All of them. No matter where they are, who they are. They all matter. Now, there are lives where they've decided that their lives don't matter enough to them to avoid crime and bring about their own death. Now, according to the... we're not there yet, sorry. With these abortions, we'll talk about this for just another minute. We got to go into another sad topic. It's about life, but it's kind of the beginning of it's a real downer. And abortion, where people don't value the life of these babies, because I don't know why. I don't understand it. To me, it makes no sense. We were just running around with a baby in here. You may see that I'm disheveled. I don't know how my hair looks. But we were running around with a 3-year-old in here, just running around, having fun. She left a balloon in here. And we love babies around the church. We always like the babies. When babies are here, we all go and talk to them and look at them and try to hold them, because we all want to hold babies. But then there are people in the world who want to get rid of their baby by killing it in the womb. And now, the next thing, suicide. Suicide has been on the rise. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2018, now this is the last year that I could get a full study of it, because 2019 just happened and we're in 2020, so they got to, I don't know. I don't know why I couldn't find it, but this is what I could find. Suicide was the 10th leading cause of death. 48,344 people. This is just in the United States of America. This is only here, only in the U.S. It was second among 10 to 34-year-olds. Second among 10 to 34-year-olds. Have you met a 10-year-old? They're little kids. Little kids. And 34 is not that old. 34. Everybody in that is younger than me. Everybody in there is younger than me. So, that's ridiculous. And then it was fourth in people 35 to 54. That's the age bracket I'm in. I'm 35 to 54. That's what age I am. Isn't that interesting? That's strange how they do that. There were more suicides than homicides. 48,344 suicides, 18,830 homicides. They really worry about gun violence, don't they? But a lot of the gun violence they talk about is actually suicides, which is a whole different problem. That's not actually... To call that gun violence is strange. It's a strange thing to do. It'd be like calling something rope violence if you hung yourself. Is that rope violence? Is that a category? I don't even know. So, there's something inherently wrong in these numbers. Especially this second highest cause of death amongst 10 to 34-year-olds. Now, I don't know what the highest cause of death was. I didn't look it up, because I didn't really care. Why does this happen in such a free and rich nation? The suicide rate has increased by 33% from 1999 to 2016. That's crazy. In 1999 to 2016, what have we gained in those years? Think about the internet in 1999 compared to the internet now. Think about your phone. This is my phone here. This phone compared to the phones in 1999. I mean, I was watching a movie and they were talking about, remember there was a time when you couldn't look up everything about somebody on the internet. And that time was, I think he said 2005 in the show. I don't know when these things, I didn't get a smartphone until they'd been out for a while, because I just didn't care about getting one. Now I find them very handy. A lot of things you can do. So, why is this so prevalent? You think it's violent video games? That's what they like to say. I remember years ago there was a movie called RoboCop. And somebody said that he went on a killing spree because he saw the movie RoboCop. Huh. Now, do you think if RoboCop had never been made, that guy wouldn't have went out and killed people? Probably not. Someday somebody, I remember I used to hear a radio show personality say that somebody's going to one day kill somebody and say it's because he got tired of the hum of his refrigerator. Maybe somebody has. Because if there's a madness, there's a madness. But there's something wrong in our society. There's something wrong in our lives, that we've lost the understanding that life itself, being alive, is valuable. We've lost that understanding. Now, why? Now, I'm going to talk about the world's, at least America's, leading religion of our, probably world, but definitely of America right now. The religion taught at school. Now I know what you're saying. They don't teach a religion at school, do they? They do. They teach a specific religion and they avoid all other religions. And this religion is evolution. And the God of evolution is science. The false God of evolution. And they have many prophets who are called scientists. Now I know you're thinking, scientist? What a scientist? That's a guy. He's a scientist. You know, he does science stuff. Like Bill Nye, the science guy. Bill Nye has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. So, because he has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, he invented something, I'm pretty sure. I'm not saying he's not a smart guy, he's probably a very smart guy. But does his degree in mechanical engineering give him the foresight to explain genders to you? Does it give him the understanding of the Big Bang? Or theoretical physics? Or the physics of space? Or climatology, or whatever they call that. Meteorology? I think it's meteorology, but they have climate people too. Does he understand those because he has a degree in mechanical engineering? So what is a scientist? A scientist is a guy who studies the science. That's it. That's all he is. He's not somebody who's been imbued with this great understanding of the world. He's a guy who studied scientists. Now, a prophet is somebody who has a prophecy. He is actually somebody that God has given a prophecy to. Something special happened there. A scientist is a guy who studies the science. You can have a geologist, that's a scientist. You can have a biologist, that's a scientist. You can have a, chemist, that's a scientist. And there's a billion others. Your science teacher, you could call them a scientist, right? Any of those could be called scientists. But does that mean that they know everything? I was in a debate with somebody on Facebook, and they brought the Bible up. I don't know why. I like it when they bring the Bible up, because then they're entering into, that's my arena. That's where I understand more. We go through these 52 Bible lessons in our Wednesday night course, and I know a lot of the answers, and I can come up with them pretty quickly because I've been studying the Bible for a long time. And there are people who study the Bible longer than me. And these scientists think that they can tell us what the Bible says. But they don't know the Bible. They know whatever field of science they studied. So evolution is the religion of death. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about evolution. I'm going to give you an overview of evolution and how it happened. I'm going to give you an overview of what's going on, how it came about. So let's look at evolution. It starts in the Big Bang, billions of years ago. Now, don't get hung up on the actual how many billion years ago, because that's not important. It's not important to them either. So I read something that they recently, I don't remember when this was written, so I don't know. I'll look it up again, maybe link it, maybe not. It depends on if I find it again. So there's a million maybe, what are those things called? Websites? Oh my goodness. I must be a little tired. There's a bunch of websites that tell you what the Big Bang was. They don't all agree, by the way. Very important that they don't all agree, but they just added 80 million years to it. So 80 million years has been added to the Big Bang, which is pretty hilarious that it can add 80 million years. But they knew it in the old days. So they say it occurred 13.7 billion years ago. I don't know if that's before or after the 80 million years they added. But I have heard different times in my past. And I remember 4 billion, but maybe I don't know when that was. Maybe that's when the world came about. So let's say we'll go with 13.7 billion, give or take, a few billion years. What is a billion years? It's a long, long time that you can't understand in your mind. Picture $1 billion in your head right now. I don't know, are you picturing Scrooge McDuck's money bin? Because that's what I'm picturing. That might be $1 billion, who knows? So what was the Big Bang? Well, there are some people who want to add another 80 million years like we talked about. But this theory that happened so long ago, it's uncheckable. But they proved it without ever checking it. And the last one that I read, the Big Bang says that sometime in the past, we're just going to go with that from now on. It's in billions of years, but sometime in the past, everything that existed was compressed into a singularity. Now, before that, they said it was a dot the size of a period on a page. Find a period, look at it, and say, whoa, that's little. And even going back far enough, they used to say it was about the size of a soccer ball. Everything that exists, all matter, energy, everything. I suppose light too. was compressed into this singularity, which is something that is infinitely small. Defies physics, by the way. It's physically impossible. That's physics, by the way, is the study of the physical world, I guess, because it's physical. So, there you go. How long ago does it really matter? The size doesn't seem to matter enough to them to leave it one size. So, that ball or that dot or that singularity, whatever it was, exploded, or as they say now, rapidly expanded. You know, like when you, how a building rapidly expands when you shoot a missile into it? You know, it rapidly expanded like that. You shoot a missile into a building and it rapidly expands. It doesn't blow up, because that makes us sound silly when we say the Big Bang. But they called it the Big Bang because it blew up. You see, you can't make sense of these things. They keep changing things because it doesn't make enough sense. So it apparently slowed down. See, this is another thing I've always wondered. I'm going to have to find me a scientist who studies, like, I don't know, space physics or something. There's no gravity in space, right? So if you have something blow up and it sends flying out into space rapidly, what stopped it from moving? Because an object at rest will stay at rest, but an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by some other force, right? Like when you're running, you're being acted upon by gravity. Well, what stopped the planets from just flying on and on and on and on forever? Or whatever was in the Big Bang. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed, right? So that's another one of those laws of thermodynamics. I don't know the answer to that. So if you know the answer to that, if you're a big old scientist, I guess you could be a normal-sized scientist. I don't know why we use that term, but comment on this video and tell me what stopped the stuff from moving after the Big Bang. Because I don't know, and I'd like to know. And if you are afraid to tell me because it's silly, tell me anyways because I want to know. So, maybe you're not interested in the Big Bang. Maybe you think, well, maybe that didn't happen. All right, because it does sound crazy. Well, let's talk about how the Earth was formed. It's weird, too. So, bear with me. Several billion years ago, it doesn't matter how many billion. But it's just numbers. They're just putting out numbers that are big so that you can't understand. It's like the debt. You know, the debt in America, it's like $17 trillion. This is a number you can't fathom, so they just throw a number out. Our solar system was just cold dust. That's it. That's what it said. I read this on their, this is their religious texts that I'm reading here. Not my religious text. I use the Bible. This is their religious text from their prophets, all of which the great prophet, of course, is Darwin. From now on, this is how I will speak about the evolutionists and their great religion of evolution. So several billion years ago, who cares how long, it was just, solar system was just cold dust. And I think it was spinning. It was swirling through space. Now, something disturbed it. Maybe, and they put this in little, like, parentheses, a supernova, which is when a star explodes. So there you go. Maybe. They don't know, though. They actually don't know. Now, if somebody knows, and you're out there watching this, tell me in the comments. Tell me, and I'll read it. Because I like to know stuff. And I think that all information should just be laid out there for us all to look at. And if it's stupid, we'll know. So then, because of this supernova, or whatever it was, they don't know. I got to read this because it's kind of crazy. We're going to have to shorten this down. It was very long. It got very hot because of that supernova. The cold dust got very hot. And then somehow a sun was formed, and it sent out these hot rings. Like, you know, rings going out, hot rings. And then the earth was molten rock, I guess. Whatever rocks were in the earth were molten. That means they were so hot they were melted. So it was a ball of melted rocks. Which is I don't know how that happens either. So again, comment if you know how that happened. Explain it to me. Because I'm not a physicist. So, outgases and volcanic activity. It did not say where the volcanoes or the gases came from. It just said this. Produced the atmosphere, and they've got evidence for this. So present that evidence. If you know it, tell me where to find it and I'll look it up. Because this was pretty vague. Okay, so then water was there. It didn't say where the water came from. Maybe there, again, tell me where it came from. And I'll read it. I'll read whatever. If you put an article on here that says how this stuff happened, I'll read it. I'll probably disagree with it, but I'll read it. and I'll see what it says. So the oceans formed something like 70 to 110 million years after the rings of fire came out. And our solar system, this is how it came to be. I'm going to try to find this again and link this for you, but I don't know. So you can read it. So sometimes my writing's not good. The moon came from something about the size of Mars, crashed into the Earth, and knocked off the moon, and went out there and made the moon. That's what it said. Something about the size of Mars. I'm shortening all this too. I am paraphrasing. Now, I don't know. And then those oceans, life formed in the oceans because of reasons. I think lightning was there. Because, of course it was. Because all this stuff. That is what they believe. That is in their religious text. Which then they teach to your children at school. So if you're cool with that, I'm ashamed that I let my kid go to school after reading some of these things. Now, I'm going to tell you about Dr. Kent, the science gent. That's what he calls himself sometimes. He's a doctor. He got a doctorate from school. That's how you get a doctorate. It means one who is learned, by the way. That's where the word came from, doctare, I think, and it means one who is learned. That means somebody who knows stuff. What stuff could be all kinds of fields. There's lots of different things you get doctorates in. Remember that. You get a PhD or whatever. Now, he explains this thing in a shortened way. So, some amount of time ago, you had the Big Bang. Everything was compressed, boom, blew up, or rapidly expanded. Then you had, eventually the Earth was there, formed apparently through all this molten activity. Then it rained on the rocks, which cooled them off. And then this made a kind of primordial soup. The soup became alive for some reason. They don't know, I don't know. If you know, put it in the comments and I'll read about it or watch the video or whatever it is. I'll look it up. I'll check it out because I'm not afraid of the information that these people have. Okay, I'm not afraid of it. They might be afraid of my information, but I ain't afraid of their information because it's silly. So all that happened, and if you go to Ken Hogan's YouTube channel and watch some of his stuff, if you watch mine, you'll probably like some of the things he says, and especially his Whack an Atheist. Those are pretty fun. Then now evolution is change over time. That's what the word means, change over time. So whatever came to life in this primordial soup found something that also came alive in this primordial soup and they had a baby. Or maybe they were single-celled organisms and they divided, which is how bacteria work. Eventually, these single-cell organisms became multi-cell organisms, and eventually what we are. I think they call that eukaryotes, but don't quote me on that. I'm not a scientist. I'm a preacher. So I was working on what word to say there. So I'm a preacher. I study the Bible. I don't study some of this science stuff. Although it appears some of this isn't science. Science is provable, demonstratable. They got to be able to show me this again. And they can't. So then you have this thing whatever becomes the most fit. That means it's the best thing to live in the environment it's in, survives. Everything else dies. Or survives not as well. I don't know exactly. But then they have these mutations. Mutations. Now, a mutation is when something is wrong in the genetic code, right? Like, I've heard blue eyes is a mutation, maybe. Perhaps. I've heard some of these things. Lots of things are mutations, actually. So, you have these mutations in the genetic code, because it's a copy of 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 a copy. So, go take a piece of paper, copy it, copy it, copy it, copy it, copy it, and you'll get a terrible copy eventually if you keep copying the copies over and over and over and over again. That's what happens. So, then these things mutate, and they have beneficial mutations. Never seen this. They've irradiated bugs, and they never get a beneficial mutation. So then two things have the same beneficial mutation at the same time, and then they have a baby. Have I lost you yet? Because my goodness, this is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous religion, and it's a religion of death. Things have to die for things to go on. If you look back at here, there was an explosion which spit all this stuff out. Then there was molten lava there, and things continually get destroyed and die to make new things, and destroyed and die to make new things. It's a religion of death, and they teach it to little children. Now, they don't teach it like I just told you about it. They give you this little piece here and this little piece here. They'll tell you about the pepper moths, or they'll tell you about some other thing they found, or they'll tell you about these ring species, or they'll tell you little things all over the world that have happened. But they won't lay it out in such detail as I just laid it out. And I paraphrased. I cut it down for time's sake, because people don't like to watch YouTube videos that are really long. I don't know why. I watch long YouTube videos, man, a couple hours sometimes. And, I'm not going to turn these into a couple hours. Half an hour is as much as I can get. And my kid's over here writing down, like, how you get eyes, which is an interesting thing to study, but I'm under a time constraint here. So, this is a religion of death. Now, I don't believe in this religion. You know what I believe? I believe what it says in Genesis chapter 2. This is how man was created. Now, in Genesis chapter 1, it gives you all of creation. And then in chapter 2, it gives you a more specific creation of man. Adam, specifically, the first man. In verse 7 of Genesis chapter 2, the Bible says, "And the Lord God formed man, I don't know why I said Adam, of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils, the breath of life, and man became a living soul." That is what happened. That's where life came from. Can you tell me what life is? Can you put it in a box? Give it to me as a present for Christmas? You can't, because you don't know what it is. I don't know what it is either. I'm not saying I do. But God knows what it is, and He breathed it into man. And Adam became a living soul, and He made him capable of procreating, actually, more like him. And He did that with all the animals, all the things that you know. Evolution is a fatalistic, nihilistic religion of death. And I don't believe it. And I'm not gonna teach it, and I'm gonna fight it for the rest of my life. I'm gonna say that evolution is wrong for the rest of my life, because it leads to things like abortion and higher suicide rates. Because it's evil. The teaching of evolution is an evil thing. And if you do it, let's say you're a teacher and you go to your class and I gotta teach evolution. Don't. It's evil to teach evolution. Now, I told my kid when she was going to school, learn evolution. That way, when you're older, you know what refutes evolution the best? Explaining it. If you explain evolution, that refutes it the best. The best way to refute evolution is to tell somebody how it works. Now, I don't believe the religion of death. I don't believe in this fake, false religion that they have played out in the world. I believe in the religion of life. Jesus, He came to earth and died on the cross to save you from your sins. The Bible teaches that He came to the earth and died on the cross to save you from your sins. Now, Adam, he died because of his sin. And I'll die because of my sin. But Jesus had no sin. No sin at all. Jesus is God made flesh. God with us. Why did He come to earth? Well, He explains it Himself. In John chapter 10, and verse 10 and 11, the Bible tells us, and these are Jesus' words, "The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come, that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep." Now, Jesus did not die so that you could think life was worthless. He died to give you life and life more abundant. Now, what does abundant mean? Abundant means plentiful, full of, more than you need. If you had abundant water, you'd have more water than you need. Like the world has abundant space for people to live in. With Jesus, you can have a full life, a life that's complete, has all parts to it, everything that you need, everything that you want. The Lord He doesn't give you everything that you want. He gives you everything you need. Now, there are things that you want that you don't need. There are things that are unimportant. Life is a wonderful thing. It's great that we have life. It's great that we can live and that we can be and that we can do all the things that we do. This culture of death, well, it's going to destroy us. It's going to take us down. It's going to ruin our lives. It leads to suicide. It leads to abortion. It leads to drug use. Why do people use drugs? To escape from life. Why do people do all these things that you see them do? It's to escape from life. Now, if you're out there and you feel all alone, if your life seems meaningless, and your life doesn't seem like you're doing anything worthwhile, well, you can change that. Because Jesus died to give you life, and life more abundant. That means life full of great things, wonderful life, a life that's not empty. You know, some people lead empty lives, and they never do anything important. I used to watch a show, and this guy was always so worried about how he needed this. His job was just so meaningless to him. It was just so meaningless. And he never could understand that his job bought food for his wife and his 2 children. That's meaningful. To raise a child from a baby to a full-grown human, that's meaningful. There's an old song, 3 Wooden Crosses, and I don't monetize these videos, so I can tell you. But in the song, it would say, "It's not what you take when you leave this world behind you; it's what you leave behind you when you go." And that's an important thing to understand. It's also important where you go when this life is over. If you trust Jesus as your Savior, you go to heaven with the Lord. If you don't, you go to the lake of fire for eternity, and that's terrible. Now, if you're living with no hope, then we call that despair. When you have no hope, that's despair. You know, if somebody's in desperate times, they're in times with no hope. But we're not in desperate times. We live in a wonderland of technology. Look at this thing here. I can look up almost anything I want to. I got a picture of a thing that happened at a football game on here that entertains me. I've got computers with video games that have entire worlds inside them that you can go around and fool around in. I mean, they're fake worlds, but they're fun to play these games. But then there's this whole world here full of wonderful things. And we just don't see it because we don't live life abundantly. We don't care about life. We don't value life. Well, here at this church, we value life. We preach against abortion. We preach against evolution. We preach for life and life more abundant. Now, if you're out there and you feel misery because you feel alone, because you feel like your life has no meaning, you need to come to Jesus, and He'll give your life meaning, and He'll give your life joy, and you can live an abundant life, a life full of wonderfulness, full of wonderful things. Now, that doesn't mean every minute of your life is going to be great, because it's not. Things are going to not go well. Family members are going to die. They're going to get old and die. All these things are going to happen. You know, you're going to get locked down for who knows how long due to coronavirus. Then you're going to get coronavirus anyways and be stuck at your house for 2 weeks and you cough 3 times because you drank your Pepsi wrong. That's what happened to me. I had coronavirus. I was at home for 2 or 3 weeks. Couldn't go to work. The worst part about it was I missed two paychecks, which was kind of hard on me because then I couldn't buy stuff. But we made it. We made it through the coronavirus. It wasn't that bad. We all had it. Everybody in my house, all 4 of us had the coronavirus. Now some people it's bad for, and that's terrible. And I wish there was something we could do, and they're working on it. You know, all these people are working on what they can do about it. Some real science is actually being done where they take and they make a vaccine and they test it. And then they test it and they test it and they test it because they have to. Because if you don't test it enough times and you put it out there, you'll kill people. And you don't want to do that, do you? Of course not. That'd be terrible because life is valuable. So what I want to tell you right now is you, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, your life is valuable. And the way I know that is because it's valuable to God. And God created everything. So if it's valuable to God, it's valuable. And you know what? Because it's valuable to God, it's valuable to me. Because if God created you, then you're valuable. And your life is worth living. And living life is a gift unto itself. Go outside sometime. Look up at the moon. There's a road that I like to drive down. As I'm out delivering food, I'll drive down this road. It kind of sits on a hill, goes over into a lake. There's a lake down at the end of the road. I guess if you messed up or your brakes were out, you'd be in the lake. Maybe. The lakes around here are kind of shallow for a little bit, so you'll be all right. And I like to drive down at night, especially when there's a full moon. You got a full moon lit up, sitting over this lake. And you can see the sun sits out there and sends its light, hits the moon. The moon reflects the light down into the lake, and then the lake reflects the light back. Isn't that an amazing thing to think about? Well, my job as a preacher is to reflect the light of the Son of God. Unlike the moon. Yeah, you say the church is like the moon. It reflects the light. And we're like the lake. Or any part of that. It doesn't matter. Whatever way you can describe that. The light that I have in my life is from God. And I should show that to the rest of you. Now, those of you who are Christians and are listening to me, you should be happy that you're a Christian. And you should go out in the world and be happy about what the Lord gave you. You should live this abundant life so that people can see it. So they can come to Jesus too. Because this culture of death, you know how we get rid of it? We all start living the culture of life. And that's the culture from the Bible. We live the way the Bible tells us to live. That's how we get rid of it. I'm not here to change everybody's mind. I'm here to change individual minds. That's what preachers are here to do. That's what the gospel's for. We're supposed to go to individuals because it's a personal relationship with Jesus, who created the world. You can have a personal relationship with Him. Isn't that enough to just make you happy? Isn't that enough to make you just think, how amazing that Jesus cared about me. And He cares about you, just like He cares about me. Just like He cares about all of us. Now, I went over the normal amount of time we do on these videos, I think. But that's okay. Let's end this culture of death. And the only way to do that is to come to the culture of life. Come to Jesus. Trust Him. Now, this election will drag on as long as it drags on, and it needs to drag on. They need to take the legal challenges that are available. They need to do every one of them, because if there's fraud, they need to prove it, and they need to put the people who commit the fraud in jail. And then maybe we won't have fraud next time. And it's a good thing we got someone there who will do it, who will actually go and deal with the fraud. But there's other things going on. Like I said, if you're in Georgia, go vote in that election. Go vote in that runoff. Go vote for those Republicans. Get them in the Senate, and we'll stop some of this nonsense that the Democrats want to do, maybe. And that'll be good. But if we don't change the culture, well, we're fighting an uphill battle, right? You ever feel like you're fighting an uphill battle? Well, we gotta deal with the culture too. We gotta deal with people, individuals. And that's how we do it. We just spread the gospel to individuals, and if the individuals believe God, then they'll spread the gospel to individuals, and then there'll be more and more and more and more, and we can grow. We can grow how many people truly believe in Jesus, and the world would be so much better if we did that. But not just that. Each life is valuable. Each human being is valuable. And if you can tell them how to be saved and they trust Jesus, that is a human being that will spend an eternity in heaven instead of hell. And you can be a small part of that. Whatever small part of that you play, it's worthwhile. So that's what we need to do with our lives. We need to serve God. Like that same guy I was talking about, Ken Hovind, he always talks about it. You look at a gravestone, right? You have when they were born, you have when they die, and you have a little dash in the middle. What'd you do with your dash? What'd you do with your time while you're alive? You only get one life to do these things. And whatever you do now echoes in eternity. I stole that from a movie. It echoes in eternity. What you do now echoes in eternity. Because if you lead somebody to the Lord, they're saved forever. And that's a wonderful thing. My name is Jeremy Wright. I'm the Associate Pastor of the Westside Missionary Baptist Church, and I want you to come to Jesus. I care about where you end up forever. This is the best I can do to reach you. Come to church if you don't live in the area I live in. Go to a church. Try to find a missionary Baptist church, at least a Baptist church to go to. And go to that preacher and say, I want to be saved. I want to live life more abundant. And he'll tell you how. And if he doesn't, then get out of that church and go to another church where they do. If they don't preach the gospel at the church you're at, you need to find another one. They need to be telling you about Jesus and that he saves and that there's a risk of hell and that the Lord's coming back one day and you want to be born again before that happens. So if you got any comments, leave them below. And subscribe to our videos so that you get all of our videos. I only have 7 subscribers. I need 80 million, right? I don't know. However many I'll take, however many I get, but I need more subscribers. So subscribe. I think the more subscribers you have, the better the more people it puts you in front of. And in closing, I'm going to tell you like, comment, and subscribe like I always do because they say that helps you get people to do. I want to say something about a man named Rush Limbaugh. I don't know if you ever heard of Rush Limbaugh. He's a radio show personality. And he's got lung cancer. He's been on the air since 1988, I think. and he's the big voice on the right, he calls himself. Well, the president gave him the Medal of Freedom, and he deserved it. He's done a lot for freedom. So all of you out there who are, living in the world, all you guys that are Christians out there, pray for Rush Limbaugh. He's going through a very difficult thing. He said one day on his show that he's living the rest of his life under a death sentence because he knows he's going to die. But we all are. We all live under a death sentence. But to him it's realer because he knows it's coming soon. He has to have treatments, all kinds of things. So pray for Rush Limbaugh. Pray for anybody else you know who's having trouble. Because Rush Limbaugh's done a lot for this country. He spent a lot of time helping us out, helping America be better by just talking about conservatism. And I'm a conservative because if you read the Bible, I find that it's hard to be anything else. But you know what? You're probably a conservative too. Most people are conservative. Are you married? Got kids? You want to do the best you can for your kids to get them into college? You're going to live more conservatively. And most people live conservative lives. Well, if you live a conservative life, then be a conservative. Why not? And if you live this life of this life of death, where death is all people think about, well, then when you face death, it's going to be terrible because you're not going to know what to do. But Rush Limbaugh is facing death, and he still gets up and goes to work every day. He's got to have millions of dollars over. He's been the top radio show in America for 30 years. He's got to have enough money where he could just retire, but instead he doesn't. He goes out and he lives life anyway because life is valuable. It should inspire us all. All right, I'm Jeremy Wright, the Associate Pastor of Westside Missionary Baptist Church, and I'm going to let you go now. Go out and live that abundant life. Trust Jesus so that you can have it. And we'll see you next time.